G'day friends, welcome to day 4 of JUNICORN week / fortnight. I hope you're enjoying the series so far. This is one of the challenges of pre-filming a lot of stuff and pre-voiceovering it. I can't actually gauge where everyone's at. But what I do know is that this video is going up on June 24th, which means my big super secret summer project reveal would have happened yesterday. So I'm assuming we're all here to hear more about Playtest Patreon. Let me talk about the unicorn first and then we'll get on to Playtest Patreon. But for JUNICORN, I'm just having fun. I'm doing whatever I feel like doing. I'm starting with the cheating template, which I'm really excited about. Today I'm actually I'm recycling an idea. I loved the ribbon seahorse from Mermaid, which was actually an idea that I recycled from my Alice in Wonderland Sketchflix episode. I did the Cheshire Cat with the ribbon and I thought, I'll come back and use this one day, this idea. I really like it. So I did it for Mermaid. I loved it. It became one of my favorite pieces from Mermaid and I thought I would do it again for JUNICORN, and now this has become one of my favorite pieces for JUNICORN. So if it ain't broke, right? I just really love it. I kept it simple, black and white, high contrast. It's giving me very David Jones, very Grace Brothers, very Maya, very Christmas wrapping department store vibes. So I'm just obsessed with it. I really love it. I hope you enjoy watching it come together. I filmed it at 2 separate times, so the light might go in and out funny, but I think we'll live. So hope you enjoy watching the JUNICORN piece come together. And for the rest of the video, I'm going to chat about Playtest Patreon. So if you don't want to hear about that, you can switch your own music over here and I will get to chatting. So yesterday, I made that big announcement, and I'm just going to assume that everyone is on board and that the best has happened. I'm going to be very optimistic today. But I'm super excited either way because, like I said, this is a big risk. This is a big challenge that I'm going to undertake, and I'm just super curious. I'm part cat, so I have the biggest curiosity to know whether I could pull this off and whether I could make it work and whether it would be successful, whether it would even be worthwhile or lucrative. Just a whole lot of things that I want to kind of figure out during the process, but none more so than whether I was entitled to have my opinion or not. So I said in the video, I got a big mouth and I got a lot of opinions that I share whether I'm asked to or not. Steve could attest to that, right, Steve? Yeah. I don't know if you could hear that. He said, yep. So anyway, I've got these opinions and I love to share them. Or not. I can keep quiet sometimes. But I've shared a lot of opinions about Patreon in particular and the big pros and cons list as far as whether I would join the platform or not. So I'll let you go and check out those videos if you feel like it. Go grab an egg, throw it at my face if you feel like it. But either way, I had never been questioned in this new way before, in the sense that I'd heard like, when are you going to do it? Or what would you do if you could? Or why don't you? I finally heard a could you? And I am, once it's in my head, it's over at that point. So I just was stirring on this idea, like, could I do it? Could I pull that off? Could I figure that out? Could I actually do all these things that I've seen people have success with Patreon on? Like, would it work? Am I going to finish this whole experience and have to issue a big apology, which I'm thinking some people might really love to watch? So I've made one of my goals is to, I don't know if it's a goal, but I'm just going to say if it does work, I will be issuing a massive public apology on YouTube with my face and everything to everyone that had to sit and listen to my opinions about Patreon that had their own. Just knowing that I had no legs to stand on. Honestly, my opinion was completely invalid because I have never tried it. I don't know if it really would or would not work for me. All I knew is that when I weighed the pros and cons up, it just seemed like it wouldn't. So, cut to now. We're trying it for a summer. We're going to try 3 months on Patreon and just see what it's all about. So we've called it Playtest Patreon. That wasn't the first thing we came up with, by the way. That was specifically chosen for it. I was going Operation Patreon, but then I felt like it was a little too Mission Impossible Tom Cruise? But anyway, so we're doing that. We're going to go 3 months, July, August, September, and just spend the summer playing and testing it out, seeing what we could do on Patreon. I've got some, essentially I've got the whole thing planned. It's actually, a lot of the content is already made at this point, and you'll just be along for the ride and enjoying it, I'm assuming. So I'm going to talk a bit about the rewards tiers today and let you know what you're in for should you decide to be on this adventure with me. I'm not going to leave YouTube either, so if you're one of those people out there that enjoy that I stayed on YouTube because you couldn't afford to pledge, do not fear, I will still be on YouTube. The content won't be as frequent as it has been in the past, and definitely no monthly challenge, but we will be leaving playtest Patreon to go into Inktober. So, pardon me. Even though there may not be as many videos per week as there usually has been, you'll be back on board for the month of October. And I'm sure that will more than make up for everything. But if you are looking to join me for Playtest Patreon, I'm going to go through the reward tiers. The first one, the entry-level reward tier, is $5, and it's called Trash Cat, which is the affectionate term that Steve and I gave to Oliver because you can typically find him in a trash bag somewhere trying to scavenge for the remains of food. Now, this is the tier that you will just have access to the blog posts and the patron-only stream. I see this patron-only stream written in places. To be fair, I don't really know what it means. I'm assuming you can add extra content that's just for patrons, but I don't think I'll be doing any of that since all the content I have is pre-planned and there's a lot as it is. So the $5 tier is called Trash Cat, and it's for the blog posts, which is a fortnightly thing. So you'll have, and they're all creative based. There are some of them touch a bit more personal about certain topics. Nothing crazy though. Like, I'm not going to say if you pledge that you're going to buy any of my secrets, but we will go a little bit deeper because as it is, I don't really put any blog posts out. I don't really have a blog post platform. So I'm excited to try that and to see how that goes and give it a bit of writing action. Steve's going to help me with the photography for that, so there'll no doubt be some fantastic photos of art supplies to have a gander at. But $5 is the blog post tier, and it's called Trash Cat, and that is fortnightly. $10 is the Queen Bee tier, which is the affectionate name that we have for Bianca because she is queen. It's also the affectionate name that most people have for Beyonce because she is also queen. But this is the podcasts and blog posts. So the way that Patreon works, the higher the tier means you get everything underneath it as well, but I'll keep mentioning it just in case it's confusing. But the $10 is Queen Bee, and you're going to get the fortnightly blog posts as well as the fortnightly podcasts. So what it is, it's actually an A-B alternating week. One week there'll be a podcast, the next week will be a blog post, the next week will be a podcast, the next week is a blog post, etc. Until the 3 months runs out. So that is those are also creatively focused. We're going to bring in guests and have lots of fun banter and discussions. If you've ever loved when someone, one of our friends or Steve, joined in for chats on voiceovers, that's what you're going to want to listen to. Then the blog post and the podcast here might be for you, and that is called Queen Bee. But super excited for that one because podcast is also something that we've been asked to try before. I'm more inclined to do a bit of a visual podcast, but who knows? Maybe this audio thing might be something to give a go, which is why I think Playtest Patreon kind of works in all fashions. I mean, we might be bringing some of this stuff out after Playtest Patreon if it does kind of work for the direction I want to take JLB Creative, I guess. So $20 is the Oliver Patrick tier. I think that's the one most people are going to be interested in just because that's where the video content comes in. So you've got the blog posts, you've got the podcasts, and then every week you'll have access to 2 new videos. None of these videos I have done before. Believe me, like the ideas, some of them are great, but some of them are just like the absolute very most. Which is very like me, but I'm super excited, and I'll just give you a sample of one. I have actually already pre-filmed all of this, but it's going through the entire process of conceptualizing and creating and editing and having manufactured a washi tape. And I'll talk a bit about why that's important for the next tier. But for the $20 tier, that's where you're going to get the 2 videos every week. Some will be tutorial based, some will just be very like vlog fashion, some will be challenges or actually, do I have a challenge? I'm not quite sure if I have a challenge. But yeah, lots of fun stuff that you already see on my channel. So if the content you're enjoying right now is something that you think you could enjoy more of, then the Oliver Patrick tier is definitely for you. It's $20, which is essentially the cost of a cup of coffee per week. So you might want to trade one for the other. or just go all out. Have a great summer. Get your cup of coffee and subscribe to the Oliver Patrick tier. I'm not gonna get you in trouble for that. Also, in that tier, you'll have access to the digital download. Every month there will be a digital download, and I'll also go through showing you how to use it. And one is specifically for the actual project that I'll be doing during the month. There is another one that is, I think, maybe something that people really enjoy because I've been asked a lot for it, and I don't want to give too many things away, but I'll just say Swatch dolls and leave you with that. And I'll talk a bit more about exclusivity at the end of the video, but let's just go on the next tier. The $40 tier, the $40 per month is the Bianca Sophia tier. And that is the Happy Mail tier. So if you're looking to get a physical piece of the Playtest Patreon action, then this one's for you. But I have to stress, it is only open to US patrons. That is because I did not want the logistics of trying to figure out international shipping. I know it sucks, and I'm really, really sorry. And as an Australian that used to live in Australia, I hated when I saw US only. But I also know what I'm capable of, and as much of a risk as this is, I couldn't add that to. I just couldn't physically add that as one of the things that I could do. I think I would have possibly tipped myself over the edge at that point. If you are someone that is international that wants to subscribe at that level for whatever reason, I don't know why you would, but if you so happen to do that, you will not receive the Happy Mail packages, and essentially all of your rewards will be the same as the $20 level. So I just want to make sure that's very clear for you guys, and that you know that. But basically the Bianca Sophia tier is everything you've heard before. You just get the bonus of having physical merchandise mailed to you throughout. And if you pledge, say in July at the Bianca Sophia level, your first Happy Mailer will be sent out in August, which is... yeah, and it will be very relevant to what we're doing as a part of Playtest Patreon. So I mentioned before, the video, it was literally like over 8 hours worth of footage, this video. So you'll be happy just to see the video in the lower tier, but we go through making the washi tape from start to finish, and the Bianca Sophia tier will actually have that mailed out to them as the first people to try that washi tape and to have access to it. Which brings me to exclusivity. Now, just because I released that inside Playtest Patreon does not mean that it won't hit the store. So I want to just make this very, very clear, because I know a lot of people have very different ideas about Patreon and what it is and what it should be. I'm going to stress this right now. Unless I specifically say it is exclusive to Playtest Patreon, then it will be open to be released at a later date. Now, I'm not going to finish in September and then upload all the videos to YouTube. That's definitely not going to happen either. Essentially, there will be a big bank of content available for me to reuse or recycle or refresh in a new way after the fact. But it's just for things like the podcast. Say 6 months down the line, I have a journal with me and I think it would really benefit from a certain podcast voiceover. I will put that together as a visual podcast, give you a journal with me and access to this podcast that we did within the summer this year. But for all intents and purposes, unless I specifically say it is exclusive to this experience, it may come back. The difference is, I guess, I don't want you to get the thought that like, oh, well, he's just going to release it all to YouTube, so we're just going to wait for that. It actually won't just come to YouTube. I just want to say things like I might reuse an idea for YouTube, but it won't be the same video. Or I might use the videos and bundle them together and present them as a package that you could purchase as extra, video content, or if you wanted to bundle together the Playtest Patreon experience and to purchase that to work through at your own pace. That's how that will become available, and that will come at the at pricing that does make sense, because at the end of the day, with the financial structures I have in place for my business, this whole thing does not make sense. You will never ever be able to get this much of the JLP Creative brand for this price ever. I mean, even as it is the Happy Mail tier, it just kind of doesn't make sense to me, but it's the way that I've figured out that I could enter in the market competitively and to give this a true go. So I just want to put that out there, that if you are waiting for this to become available to you, that's probably not going to happen. So don't just sleep on it for the fact that you think you might get it for free. This will become available, but also probably at a premium price. So my recommendation would be to jump in now or forever hold your peace. I hope you enjoyed the video and seeing the ribbon junicorn junicorn, it's just a unicorn, the ribbon unicorn come together. If you have any questions, this has all been pre-filmed, so I probably won't get to them in the next junicorn video, but I will endeavor to make sure that I get the information out there in a way that makes sense before the whole playtest Patreon experience begins July 1st. Just to stress again, I am super nervous about this. I have a lot of content pre-filmed. I am super prepared. In fact, I'm probably over-prepared, but I'm just nervous about how it will all be received. I don't want you to think that I'm sitting over here just like waiting for it to start and like just, you know, giddy from excitement. I am probably more nervous than I am excited, but I think it's going to be a really great thing. And I think at the end of it, you know, worst case scenario, I have a bank of content that I can take with me through the future. Best case scenario, it will have worked out and I'll be issuing a very embarrassing public apology to everybody on YouTube, which I think maybe some people would probably pledge just to see me do that. I think Steve's probably going to pledge just to see me do that, actually. He said, yep. I'm going to leave you with that. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll be back again with another one in a couple of days. And until then, thanks for watching. Bye.